interesting things which are going to be revealed during the level up time. But apart from that, we do have a bunch of new updates in terms of, what has been released recently, and then, what would be getting released, either in the next couple of weeks or by end of this quarter. So I'll be taking you through that, and then feel free to post your questions, queries in the chat, or if you'd like, we can discuss those after the end of the presentation. All right, let's begin. All right, so the first feature I wanted to talk about is a look busy feature. We've had a lot of votes on the ideas board for it. And what basically it allows now is for a user to be able to configure how many slots they want to fake book on the widget when, a customer or when their end customer is, booking with them. It basically helps in, creating that image that, the business is busy. And then, it just creates that sense of security for somebody who's booking rather than having all the slots available. So yeah, pretty known feature in many of the scheduling tools, and we decided to also bring it now. We have had decent traction so far on this particular feature, and we saw a lot of feedback and good comments on Facebook. But then again, yeah, if there are any, we'd love to hear from you guys as well. But yeah, that was the first one I wanted to talk about. Moving on. The second is basically the ability to be able to collect the address from the person who is booking the appointment. So more often than not, and this is something which we have also seen in other tools like Calendly, where either the user can provide their own preferences for meeting locations. For example, somebody might want to get booked on Zoom, or somebody do not have Zoom, and then they would want to get booked on Meet, or maybe it could be a physical meet either in the user's office or probably at the booker's place. So depending on that, the situation and the preferences, the meeting location can change. And this is where we have given this ability where you can also add a new meeting location, which is ask the booker. When you add this, what you see on the right is the elsewhere option, where the booker can definitely add wherever they want to meet and then schedule a meeting. What happens with this is in the meeting location on the appointment details, as well as in the email confirmation notifications which go out, this meeting location flows in, making sure that both the parties are aware what the meeting location is, similar to how it works currently for Zoom or Google Meet or for phone number for that matter. And then the meeting can then happen. So again, something pretty handy for folks. We have recently integrated Razorpay as a payment processor. This is particularly for India because Razorpay again is pretty heavy in India. But then again, it does shows that calendars is integrating with a lot of. So we have recently integrated with not just Stripe but AuthorizeNet, as well as NMI, and then Razorpay is another one which we have simply added, which allows you to utilize other payment options like UPI, which is again pretty heavily adopted in India, and then credit card and the usual options are also present. All right, this one I don't know if folks have seen this because we kind of pushed it via labs. We have now created an ability where we have given the option to the users to be able to connect their Calendly account directly with GHL. What that leads to is basically once you integrate with this, you can, as you see on the right, you would be able to see all the different calendars for this individual user who is integrating. And you can then select which all calendars you would want the events to flow into GHL. Now, the purpose of it is not basically that, you pull in those events and then you can operate it on the calendar application within the GHL application. However, the purpose is you would be able to fetch these appointments. And then based on that, you would also be able to create those contacts. And if you want to utilize, let's say things like, hey, I want an appointment reminder workflow to be sent out when an appointment is booked. So as soon as this gets synced in, this would work there where, all your workflows would act and work the similar way how they work for a go high level appointment. You would be able to create contact. You would be able to move it to an opportunity. You would be able to, do multiple things in this case. And that is a purpose where, users who do not want to use the Go High Level Calendar app and are using Calendly in the meantime can, obviously utilize this to integrate easily and then be able to utilize all the other CRM capabilities which the platform has to offer. Just a note, this does not work for the free tier on Calendly, and that is a limitation at their end where they don't push those events to us. So you have to be on a paid plan to be able to sync successfully and then be able to utilize the capabilities of this integration. All right. A minor, but definitely a useful one, which is add to calendar button in the confirmation email. So this is basically from the booker's perspective, where now the person who has booked the appointment would be able to get these options, what you see in the screenshot, where they would have the option to add it to Google Outlook or iCloud. So if you are using, let's say, a Gmail client, then you just click on the Google icon and then it opens the calendar in a new app and new tab, sorry. And then it would just simply add that event there. Same for Outlook. In iCloud, if you are using the Mac OS and you have the iCloud setup, it would then open the iCloud and add this event there. So it essentially downloads, an ICS file, and then, it simply saves it to whatever client application you're using for your calendars. So again, something which is going to be handy because what we have seen is many folks, they do get it, but if it's not added in their calendar and they rely on calendar notifications to be reminded of their appointments, they would miss out on it. So I think, this would again definitely help in, avoiding those misses when you have an appointment or your customers have an appointment. Moving on, we have recently enabled it, which is private mode for synced events. As of today, what happens is, let's say if a user connects their third-party calendar and all the events which are coming in from there are visible to all the other users as well, which we have seen feedback on Facebook posts as well, which is obviously something which not everybody wants. There are different cases. For example, in case of a receptionist or a reservationist, and where the staff members are using their Google Calendar as well as their GHL application for appointments, would want to see these appointment details. But in most of the cases, it's more like a personal appointment where, let's say, hey, I need to go and drop my kid to the school, or, I have a personal appointment with my doctor. Those kind of private information was also being exposed as of today. With this setting, a user can determine directly from calendar settings and connections if they want to hide these events. And once they are hidden, as you can see, they would all be shown here in the slots, but they would all appear as busy. Uh, Apart from the individual user, other users would not be able to see the appointment title or the contact details for that particular appointment. This is basically just trying to maintain that privacy between their personal calendars, which are being synced here with respect to all the other users being able to view it. As of today, we have enabled this in labs, and we have enabled it by default on, which means everybody's event details would be private now, and then they would stop seeing it. But we are going to change it. And what we will do is we will disable it by default because there would be use cases where it might disrupt the existing user flows where they are relying on these appointments. And then, but there is a setting always where you can go and decide how you want to treat your appointments with respect to others viewing them. This is only subject to the third-party calendar appointments. It does not have to do anything with respect to any events or appointments which are creating within the Go High Level app. That still works based on the current rules and permissions and how they are. All right, moving on. Okay, let's talk about the upcoming releases. And guys, sorry, I am unable to see the chart, but just let me know if I'm going too fast or is the space okay? Or if you
This
have
is
any
good.
questions.
This is good for now. We'll catch up on some of these questions, and we're also answering some in the chat.
Awesome. Thanks, Ryan.
Mhm.
All right. This one has been one of the heavily voted items on the ideas board, where the ask was, and I think the idea itself says, reschedule as a status, if I'm not mistaken, on the ideas board. But I think, I had a discussion about this maybe, a few product calls back. Reschedule as a status do not really make sense because reschedule is an act. uh, an appointment can either be confirmed, unconfirmed, no show, showed, but it cannot be rescheduled in a status. It's an action where, after you reschedule, it can either be confirmed, unconfirmed, show, no show, but it cannot be rescheduled as a status. But then we deep dived into the request to identify what is it that our users need. And there were two primary things which were being asked. One was being able to attribute it in reporting, because folks would want to understand how many appointments were actually rescheduled for a particular calendar during a particular duration. And the second was having the ability to have reschedule in a workflow action. Now to cater that, what we have done is what you see in the screenshot today is we have added a reschedule tag. And in the activity log, when you click on the three dots, you would be able to see view details. And under that, you would be able to see activity log. In that activity log, you would be able to see when was the previous appointment, or for example, if an appointment got rescheduled, right? What was the original time and when it got rescheduled and what is the new time and what is the status. So it would basically tell you how many times. So let's say an appointment got rescheduled 3 times. In the activity log, you would be able to see that reschedule activity happening 3 times. And the same can then flow in the reporting as well. So that you can export that. The second thing, which was the ask of having reschedule as an action, and I think Charles spoke about it when we initially discussed that, I think a couple of months back. Currently, how reschedule works is whenever an appointment gets rescheduled, right? It's treated as a new appointment. And folks have created their workflows around that as of today. But then when we deep dive again, what is the request? And we figured out that, okay, what people want to do is they would want to have reschedule as an ability so that based on that, they would be able to set conditions and further flows in the workflow. And that's where we decided, why not we give reschedule in the if and else condition? So think of it like this, right? If this appointment or if this calendar appointment gets rescheduled, then there is a separate flow where, you would want to reach out or communicate or whatever. And then, if not rescheduled, then carry on with the different workflow altogether. So that is how we are treating it today. But of course, this is an initial thinking, and then we would be seeking feedback. And if there are, more changes needed, we would be enhancing this capability in the coming future. But so far, this is what we have thought about in terms of reschedule for tag, for activity log, for reporting, as well as in the workflow side of things. All right. The other one which we have been seeing lately from many of the folks is the ability to add notes for an appointment. So out of today, there is no way where, if somebody wants to add a note for a particular appointment, and this, has many use cases in service industry, in healthcare industry, let's say a chiropractor or a dentist, right? Somebody makes a phone call and says, hey, I am allergic to this and I want to make an appointment even for a restaurant, right? So those notes can be added here and can be viewed from the appointment view itself. And what you see on the left is basically the tab where you would be able to add notes. And of course, you can add more than one note. And with that on the right, what you can see is like multiple notes, which would be ordered from recent to the last, with, who that note was created by and what time with the time zone. So that's the other one. Sorry, I'll just stay here for a sec so that everybody can go through the visuals.
Team Automator, do you have a question?
Sorry, why say that? Okay. Stay here. Oh my goodness. Okay, just going back to the previous slide. I'm wondering, how is it going to show on the contacts profile? Is it also going to be labeled as rescheduled and then, easier to view when was the last rescheduled date? Or when was the last scheduled date with right. A, strike through with that, whatever.
Right. So on the contact profile, Dia, we are not thinking of making any changes because on the contact profile, the appointment card, which you currently see, right, it would still be there. But in the activity log, you would be able to see the same thing, right? Rescheduled once, rescheduled twice. So how you see an activity in the contact log, right? Where you see, hey, this contact booked an appointment, last appointment was at this date, the same appointment got rescheduled. So in that format or in that, tree kind of a structure, you would be able to see how many times the appointment got rescheduled.
Okay, but will there be a thought of like making it more plain for for the users that doesn't know or doesn't when we have like the sales team checking on the calendar in the contact profile. We don't want to like educate them to click on the three dots and then see if this is rescheduled, etc., like that.
Mhm. I see. I think we can definitely, explore that possibility. As I said, right, we are seeking feedback and we would make those enhancements depending on the use cases. So I'll just note that down and then we can explore it. If it is not a very heavy lift, then we would try to, deploy it and get that out soon. If not, then, we would see if we can prioritize it in the upcoming months.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think from a sales perspective, I'm thinking what would be awesome is like a tag where it's like, hey, this appointment has this maybe like the product labels that we do in the e-com store, like a little pill that says rescheduled, and then maybe when you hover over it or click on it, you could see like the dates that it was rescheduled. Because I know a lot of sales teams have issues where people just continually reschedule stuff, and it's like you're taking up time on my calendar. Like we just want to D&D this person. They're just wasting our time. They keep rescheduling slots that could be for other people.
That
So,
makes sense.
yeah,
Sure.
just some thoughts. Cool. AJ?
Hey Ryan, thank you. Quick question. I have a particular sub account that is an events management company. They really want to run reports on people that have actually attended a specific event. So they're able to target that event through campaigns for future events that are similar to that particular event. Is this possible? If not, can it? Would it be possible in the future if I add it to the ideas board, or
I guess my question on that would be, what's the trigger? Like how would we get the data from your point of view? How would we get data on if they attended or not?
Through this confirmation. So if they've gone through a calendar and essentially said that they're going to attend a specific event, so we're using calendars in the use case of events. They would book time to visit an event, and that's how we kind of linking that particular contact to that event.
So almost like an additional status. So you have like, let's say requested, confirmed, and then attended.
Correct.
Okay. Got it. That's an interesting
Right.
use case. I could definitely see that for events.
Yeah, I wonder if that can be.
Last thing, Abhishek, just to add to that, and again, I'm happy to put it on the ideas board if it's not already being thought about internally. But one thing where we can really get some business from the likes of Eventbrite is the ability to scan a QR code of a ticket or an attendee in order to automatically mark them as I think it's confirmed or attended or whatever the status is, to mark them as present, let's say, rather than having to search their name in the search bar and then manually do it. That's how they're doing it at the moment with the laptop.
Interesting. Got it. Yeah, I mean, AJ, yeah, that I think is a typical what you're stating, right? An event kind of a use case because, that's where, you have a scanner, everybody shows that. And then, something different happens when you take a case of, let's say, a gym, right? Where there is somebody usually on the machine, right? Who is saying show, no show, those kind of things. So different use cases, but I guess, we can definitely explore it. Please feel free to add it to the ideas board as well. That would just help us in prioritizing this. But I was wondering if today this can be achieved using workflows, right? If somebody has booked an appointment, just add a tag and then take an export of or tag added, and then you can create a different workflow, which is like, hey, whoever has this particular tag added, send out an email to them. If that doesn't work,
That's
I'm
a good
not sure.
workaround. I'll explore that. Thank you. That is a good workaround. So if they attend a specific event, add a specific tag to them. So we're able to essentially isolate that user base and email them separately.
Right. If you want a dump, you can also use the Google Sheets action, push all these contact informations and email IDs there, which you can utilize in future communications as well.
Sure,
So,
sure. Thank you.
right. I think Charles, yeah.
Charles?
I was just going to add, so I've ran into AJ's situation as well, where I work with online networking companies and they hold physical events and they want to be able to track that and get away from Eventbrite for obvious cost reasons. But with the new, my mind immediately goes to if there was a way to make the new QR code generator work alongside trigger links in some way, shape, or form where it was dynamic based on the attendee booking. They get a dynamic QR code that then triggers that status update. So if that QR code is scanned, thanks for checking in, it just gives that confirmation message. That's just immediately where my mind went when AJ was talking about it. How those two products could maybe work together to solve this problem of check-in.
Abhishek, I'm not sure if he's still here.
Sorry, I just
Okay.
got disconnected, Charles, when you started speaking. I missed probably, what you were saying. If you would
That's
be
okay.
kind.
So when AJ was talking about the check-in uh, problem that we experience currently trying to get away from Eventbrite, my mind immediately went to, with the new QR code generator, if there was a way to leverage that along with the functionality of trigger links where it's dynamic, if when that person books on that event calendar for that event, it uses kind of the same process as a trigger link to create a unique QR code for that ticket. And that way we can just scan it. So taking the two technologies that are already built within high level and seeing how maybe they could be reworked slightly to provide a at least beginner solution to that event check-in.
No, I see what you mean. Having an action which is generate a QR code, which would obviously generate based on certain unique parameters, pass in the contact information, which would be unique, and
Correct.
every
Yeah.
QR code would be individual's QR code, and that can be used to scan and then utilize it, loop it back to basically add a tag or do something, right? That's I
Yeah,
think what
because
you are.
basically you're going to have someone at the, table or whatever scanning tickets whenever they come in. So if they scan that QR code that was generated, they don't necessarily need to do anything. They just need to scan it to activate it, or maybe type in a code to confirm that it was actually them checking in. That can come later after the skateboard model. But just being able to scan that QR code and have it flip the status from confirmed to attended on that event calendar would be a start at least. So
A good start. And a level 2 of that, just to complicate things a bit further, would be to add a rotating QR code to stop people buying tickets and sharing a screenshot with other people. So all the major ticket vendors at the moment rotate a QR code every 30 seconds. And then once that QR code is scanned, that person cannot essentially share that QR code with somebody else for them to also attend the event for free.
well, and I don't think you need to necessarily rotate the QR code if you have a condition set to where if that QR code is marked as attended, there is a checksum that says, hey, this has already been marked as attended. This is not good.
Right, it would throw an error or say not acceptable because it's already been scanned.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, this ticket's already been scanned, or
Yeah, the reason why, and this is the last comment on this because I don't want to take over the call, but the reason why they use rotating QR codes is to stop somebody going and buying 100 tickets and then putting it on the resale market. So you have to have downloaded the app, Go High Level app, or whatever white label app that they're using, in order to show that ticket present at the event. And then it's only be able to scan it once to authenticate the purchaser, essentially. But again, that can come later stage. The main thing is what Charles is saying. To achieve that would be a dream right now. We're doing a whole bunch of workarounds in the gym space already, where we generate a custom field and we generate a membership number, and then we create a QR code on that membership number. And then when they attend, they scan the QR code and it searches for that user to make sure they're paying. So we're doing workarounds at the moment. in different spaces. But it would be nice to have some sort of attendee management with the calendars, because I think many of your customers would appreciate that.
Right. Noted, AJ. And again, just also go ahead and add it to the ideas board. I'm pretty sure other folks who are seeking for something like this, would be interested in putting it up. And that just helps us, in prioritizing it over all the other things which we have. Awesome. All right, moving on. So in the calendar configuration settings, what we are thinking of doing is uh, providing a drop down wherein, now you would be able to select custom values, whatever is applicable in that particular drop down. So we have seen uh, majority of the power users, right? They are using a lot of custom values and fields. And in that case, they would be able to know what the format is. But many times what happens is somebody writes in something which is an incorrect custom value and it gets rendered or it rather stays like that on the UI. For example, let's say appointment title invite, right? Contact.name for haircut. Let's say if contact spelling was wrong, then it would just have these parentheses and contact.name in that misspelled or manner, and then for haircut, which is not a great experience, for a professional uh, accomplishment, right? So what we decided is to eradicate that human error. We have given this drop down where you can now select different custom values from here. And then, that just makes life easier and also reduces the error uh, rates on the overall calendar execution from creation to appointment booking. All right. The other thing, again, heavily voted on the ideas board is ability to collect payments with recurring. This one was pretty interesting. And also we first looked at, various applications as well, because, this could be very complicated if you then think of different triggers related to this and automations and, how it would work in the different ecosystems. And the approach which we have decided to take is, hey, you would be able to configure payments for recurring. And we would provide two options. One would be, hey, do you want to collect payment for the first appointment, or do you want to collect payment of all the appointments in a single go, which would be the first time you are getting booked? And based on that, we would be asking the end customer that, hey, if let's say, an appointment costs $10, and if there are 10 appointments, and if you have selected first appointment only, it would only ask you to pay $10 and it will book all the 10 appointments, assuming that, the person who's providing the services would be able to collect them all offline. And then, the second option would be if you want to collect the entirety of $100 during the first appointment, depending on the use case. And of course, the partial payment would work in sync with it. So you can decide to also choose if you want to apply a partial payment on top of it or not. Again, planned for Q3, going to be released maybe in, 3-4 weeks.
Awesome. Cam, do you have a question on that?
It's a related question. I was just wondering if there's plans to include tax on those payments, because that's kind of the only place you can't.
Right. Not as of now, but we definitely have seen some ideas floating around on that, but it's just that the volume has not been that great that, we prioritize it over other things. But we definitely know that, that is something which we have to build and it is in our backlog. But yeah, just I would request, check it out on the ideas board, because I think there is one idea there around taxes, but it has, I think, somewhere around 12 to 13 votes only. So yeah, if we see more votes, we would be able to prioritize it and build it sooner.
Just seems to be more, cohesive, because every other product has the tax and this doesn't. So,
Right.
And coupon codes, actually.
So coupon codes is something which had more votes, and that is something which we are building, and it would soon be out, probably by end of Q3 as well. So you would have full capabilities of applying coupon codes on both booking widget as well as on the appointment modal. Either your booker can apply coupon codes if they have it, or you would be able to apply it for them if they're calling you for an appointment from the in-app modal. So that capability, along with, all the functionalities of coupon code, including, things like, hey, I want this coupon to get expired in 15 days. This can be only on a value of $100 and above. All those conditions would work how it works in other product areas.
Okay, thank you.
All right. The next is class booking enhancement. So there are a couple of things which we are going to do as enhancements in class bookings. And this is primarily driven from feedback which we have been, seeing on Facebook and also through multiple, calls with our customers. Where number one was, there is no way to currently be able to have or generate dynamic Zoom or Google Meet links in a class booking. So what happens is, as of now, if somebody wants to have an online class, they would have to select custom as an option, and then they would have to manually enter, a fixed static URL of Zoom or Meet or whatever, the video conferencing tool is, and only that is how they are able to use it. But there have been use cases where people wanted to shuffle and dynamically generate new Zoom and Meet links, right? Depending on new appointments and everything, which was not possible earlier, which would now be possible with this release. The second important feature was having the ability to add guests, and more importantly, the guests which are added should also get subtracted from the total seats which are available in the class. So let's say there is a yoga session or a yoga class for 10 folks, right? And 2 slots are already filled. Now there are 8 slots. If a booker tries to book an appointment for themselves, it would then take one more slot. So now remaining available slots are 7. But if a booker decides to also bring in 2 more guests, in that case, the total slots now become 5, which have been taken. And because, there are 3 more people who have actually booked, not just one, because that one individual is bringing 2 more guests, right? So now the class capacity remaining is of 5 slots. So this is not possible as of today. And we have heard from many customers where they wanted this capability, and this would soon be coming out. And the third enhancement which we would be doing is, as of today, if you are using a class booking enhancement, and let's take the same example, right? Yoga class which has 10 slots. So on the high level application, when you click on the appointment modal, you see one appointment bar. And when you click on it, you would see the list of all the attendees, right? Very similar to how you would see on a Google calendar. But what happens on a third party calendar is those 10 appointments or those 10 attendees are treated as 10 different appointments. And what you would end up seeing is, let's say, in that entirety of, let's say, half an hour of time, you would see 10 different appointments parallelly slotted and fitted together in that time slot, which obviously, sometimes create panic, confusion, and obviously, that is not the best representation of the class booking appointment, especially on the third party. So it does not have any issues on our own platform, but on the third party calendar syncs, it does behave a bit differently, which would be streamlined, and you would be able to see it exactly how you see in a Google Calendar invite with multiple attendees, where you would be able to see who the host is and the different attendees in one single appointment bar rather than having 10 different ones. So those are the 3 enhancements which we would be bringing in this quarter for class booking calendars.
Charles's animation is driving me crazy.
One quick thing on this while we're looking at this integration screen. So something that was brought up pretty heavily, some people were pro, some people were anti, but Microsoft Teams, is there any, we haven't talked about it in a few months. We just trying to ignore that it exists again, or I mean, I don't blame you. I'm not a Microsoft
We recommend
person.
that you don't use my. No, we don't.
Yeah, I'm definitely not a Microsoft person, but I know there's a lot of companies out there that still are on Teams. So
yeah,
no, Charles, we are not trying to shove it under a rug. We are actively working on it. Actually, it was supposed to be a surprise because it had like almost 450 votes, around 500 now. So we thought, why not showcase it directly in the level up? But yeah, that is work in progress, and we
okay,
would have like Q3
all good.
for sure.
I'm trying to sell tickets here, so can we hold some stuff back?
I mean, I was put it so.
Gonna get our Men in Black memory flasher. You didn't hear that?
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, so I think that was the last slide in the deck. This is our QR code. segue back to the QR code conversation. But yeah, I mean, please feel free to scan it and then, book a call with us. But yeah, I am open now to take questions. Keith, I
Keith,
see your hand.
yeah,
Go
go
ahead.
for it, Keith.
Yeah, on the class booking calendar, the last time I tried to use it, there it asks you how many slots you want available for cut visitors, but it doesn't talk about and it asks for the name of the assigned instructor, but it doesn't even show up on the assigned instructors and calendar until someone books one of the available slots. So could we get I think it's a dull, routine, boring thing, and that's why it doesn't get votes. But could we get some attention?
No, absolutely, Keith. And I think I saw the similar comment. I don't know if it was you on the ideas board or on Facebook, but I saw a similar post somewhere where, people were seeking for it. So I think the challenge today is because, they don't get booked and there is no slot reserved. The chances are somebody else might book with the same instructor at the same time, and now they are not able to create that class. That is the primary objective, right? Where we want to freeze that individual slot for that instructor, irrespective of anybody has booked or not. That is something we have taken into account, and we would be picking it up in the next quarter. Like that would be the first thing which we would pick up for class booking enhancements.
Cool. Charles.
Appointment notes, love it. Are those going to push over to contact notes? So if I create an appointment note, can we get that synced to the contact note? So if something accidentally gets deleted, those notes aren't they're at least in two places instead of just one.
I mean, Charles, as of today, in the implementation which we have right now, they would only be sticking with the appointments, not with the contact. But I see what you're saying, and I think that makes sense. Perhaps an enhancement could be having those fitted with the contact. The only challenge where that was right now is, would that not be confusing for a user who is looking at notes, because there are those notes related to a contact, and then there are notes related to a particular appointment. So it was more on, a design and a user experience thing. Would it confuse folks, or should we keep it simple for now? And then, let's wait for the feedback. And based on that, we would build it further.
Based on other CRMs that I've used, that's how it works. If a note is put in another division of the platform, it always gets, if it's contact related in any way, it gets backed up to the contact, because I don't want to have to go digging for a note. If I'm a manager going to look at, say, hey, what's going on with this customer? I don't want to have to go to notes, look through the notes there, then say, oh, wait, do they have an appointment? Let me go look in the appointments. Maybe there was a note there. And so that's why it's always backed up to contact notes. Now, it's not done vice versa. You would never want contact notes in appointments, because that would just be way too much. But appointment notes to contact notes is definitely a high use case, for sure.
Absolutely.
So,
Sure.
and I think if there was some better formatting, UX design on the actual notes section, to where maybe if it's an appointment note, it gets highlighted, or, it automatically gets a header, a bold text header saying appointment note. And that way, that's where that note came from, because it is system generated. It's not user generated, in the contact level.
I mean, when I said
So,
user experience, it wasn't just about how do we show it there. It was also about like how much would it make sense. But as you said, right, most of the CRMs are doing it. We would definitely explore it, and then see if we can incorporate this sooner.
And then a couple other things. So we were talking about the appointments, the rescheduled. I love the label on the appointment board. If we could get that rescheduled blue text on the appointment cards at the contact level, like Dia was talking about, that would be great. At least we have, from the contact view, without going to the appointment board, we can visually see something. And then max, with all this rescheduling talk, has there been thoughts about max number of times that an appointment can be rescheduled
Not
to the
yet.
same use to the same use case of what you brought up, I mean, that it does happen, unfortunately, where people just sit there pushing it off, pushing it off, pushing it off. At some point, it'd be nice if the user didn't have to actually take their time to sort that out, if the system could sort it out.
Sure. I mean, the way we were looking at it, I mean, it's not that we have not thought about it. We did, but it's not being implemented as of today. But the way we wanted to build this is basically as part of the cancellation and reschedule policy,
Right.
which would be
Yeah.
so that you can tie a price to it as well if you want to, right? After, let's say, 2 reschedules, you would have to probably pay a certain amount, or if you have, you take some deposit first and then, there's no refund, and then you can put a limit on how many times you can reschedule, those kind of things. So that is how we are looking at it. But it's not being actively worked upon as of today. But again, definitely in our radar.
Yeah, and then one last thing, and Ankit noted that this point was taken, but one thing that seems to get overlooked a lot of times when we're adding in merge keys, like contact, user, appointment, we always seem to leave off custom values. If we could just say, hey, if we're adding contact, if we're adding user, let's just go ahead and add custom values, because a lot of us have snapshots that heavily revolve around custom values. So it may not be what you would think it would be, like a user merge field or a contact or an appointment merge field. It's just kind of something to say, hey, if we're going to put in this drop down where they can add contact information, let's at least add the custom value. Now, the other ones may not be relevant, but custom values is a wild card. High level doesn't know what we're using custom values for in that particular instance. So, there could be things in that custom value in the custom values that we want to be able to access. Currently, right now, a lot of times we have to go somewhere else just to get that drop down to copy it and paste it where we actually need it.
All right. And that is exactly what we are doing, Charles, right? Or am I missing something there? Because
Well,
we
so
are
when you showed, and it may have just have been the screenshot that you showed, it didn't show custom values. It showed user values, contact values, and appointment values, which custom fields would be under contacts, but actual custom values were not displayed there. So it may just be, hey, we threw this screenshot together and we just happened to grab the wrong snippet. But just want to, it's been missed a lot, almost every time that a new drop down's been put in for values.
I see it.
So
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, noted.
not just in calendars. It's just about every department forgets to throw that menu item in there. So
Cool. AJ?
Abhishek, thanks again. One of the features that you have on adding a guest functionality is essentially the way it works. On the last page, there's a button that says add guests.
On the form.
Yeah, we have a lot of users, general public, that essentially don't click that button but are bringing guests. And it's a problem, actually. It's a problem in restaurants that are getting oversubscribed. And we'd really like a way of having a guest. I don't know, that when you press the button, you get a couple of fields, guest name and guest email. I would love the ability just to have that there without clicking the button. So part of the form or part of something where users have to essentially add guests, or the opposite, click something that says, I don't have any guests. Or third option, when they press confirm, if they haven't clicked no guest, then it just makes that a required field. Something along the lines of, giving them a little snag to turn around and say, do you have guests or not? Because everyone just fills out the form, turns up with 8-10 people, and assumes they're going to have a table. And it's actually a real world problem, as opposed to a new idea.
Yeah, I see what you mean, and yeah, that makes sense. We can definitely explore, and thank you for also suggesting the ways by which this can be achieved. I think, yeah, we'll just note it down and we'll see, what can be the best. I don't think, there should be a very heavy lift. We'll see if we can, prioritize this soon.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Joshua.
Hey, I don't know. I don't know if I entirely missed. Did you guys service menus, or is that
Joshua, are you talking about the service calendars?
yes?
Yeah.
No, we did not really have anything on the service calendars in this
Okay,
presentation. We didn't really touch upon that.
got it. So one of the things, and I've talked with um somebody previously in regards to this is like, so if there's a service in the service calendar right now, it only allows to add one of that item. And so if, for instance, as an example, if it's a car detail and you want one car wash, but you have two vehicles, you either have to create a calendar event that's two vehicles because you can't add the single vehicle twice in. It's a shopping cart function that has a maximum value of one. Is there any map on improvements with inside of service menus?
Hmm. So, short answer is no, we don't. At least, we haven't considered this use case because when we were building these service calendars, we were looking at more from, the health and wellness space, the beauty space, right? The spa, salon and spa. And generally, let's say if you have a haircut, you would not want to add the same haircut again to the same user. We do have the capability where you can book multiple appointments. For example, let's say haircut and beard trim. But in your case, I see how that makes sense because somebody might actually have two cars and it's the same user who is booking, the availing the services. I think that is something which we can probably, explore and make that as a setting. If you want, you are allowed to book the same appointment twice or thrice with the same contact. I think that should solve your use case.
Yeah. So what we're doing as a workaround right now is like vehicle one, vehicle two, vehicle three, vehicle four.
I see.
which is yeah. Okay.
Right.
And then coupon codes are coming to calendar still?
Yep. They are.
Cool. That was it.
All right.
Thanks.
Cam?
Yeah, so we're really struggling. We have like a music teachers, and we're real struggling with the current state of recurring. Like it's not really recurring, it's just copied events. Is there any timeline on the actual recurring calendar?
Right. So, can you elaborate like what kind of problems? Because we do have something in the works for recurring, but the requests around recurring have been really mixed, depending on use cases. Because somebody wrote that they are looking for a recurring similar to how Google works. But the problem is Google is a personal calendar, right? Where you simply go on the calendar and book an appointment. Versus what we offer is basically an interface for your customers as well to book, right? So that's where it differs. And that's where, these minor things which are not really seen by folks, are then thought upon that, it's a problem. So that's why I wanted to understand the use case and perhaps, then I would be able to comment.
Yeah, I'd love to explain what we're struggling with. So say you have a calendar where you're offering Monday classes and you have a max of 8 people in that class, and you can let the client choose when they want to start in that month. So if they started at the last day of the month, it's only going to block them off on that one day and not the classes previous. Like that slot's going to be taken, right? 3 weeks in advance. And so it should be like a recurring that blocks that slot throughout, until they cancel, basically. So in a recurring event until they cancel. So they're signing up for music lessons on Monday at 2:00. It should block all 2:00 in the future because they're taking that slot, right? So I'm struggling with that because we're only allowed to go 24 events in advance, and they're not connected. So if anything changes in that event, you have to go through every single one to change it, and it's a nightmare. So we basically we're not using the calendar. We have to do everything manually as far as that goes, because it's just useless for that case scenario. So yeah, just the
Got it.
recurring, it's a nightmare. I know it's a hard thing to figure out. There's a big use case for it for classes that are recurring for sure.
Absolutely. I think, yeah, so I think I would be able to now, I understand the use case and the challenges. So one challenge I think is the limit of 24 recurrences or occurrences, right? And just out of curiosity, when somebody books a class, do they do it on the booking widget on a web page somewhere, or like do they generally call and somebody books it in the in-app appointment? Like how does that work?
It would
Or
be
does
on
it?
a calendar widget, yeah, like on a web page. Yeah.
I see. So basically, the first challenge, right? So I think it works currently the way you're describing. For example, if I set a recurring appointment, right, for let's say a repeat every third day in a week for let's say 24 weeks, it would. But the problem is the problem with that is that individual calendar would always have the same setting, which is like it would always create, let's say for uh, student number one, right? They book a 9 a.m. slot. So it would create a 9 a.m. slot for all the 3 weeks or for every third week or every third day, whatever the frequency you have set for 24 occurrences. But the problem is it's rigid on the calendar level. So that individual calendar has a frequency setting and it would always book on that frequency. For example, you say daily for 24 occurrences, right? Now that calendar would have 24 instances booked in the future for that individual slot. But I think what you're seeking at is, hey, I want a calendar which has, let's say, something like 8 classes, and then somebody can decide to book it on Monday, and it would be, let's say, weekly. So Monday, 8 classes every week on Monday for 8 weeks. Versus if somebody books on Tuesday, then it would be Tuesday for 8 weeks every Tuesday. Did I get that right? Or like,
Sort of like, so in the music world, usually it goes on the school calendar, so it's 10 months. So that 24 is not enough, first of all. And
Sure.
then again, the bigger challenges is there are individual calendar events that get added. And so when there's a change, so say a student changes a slot, you actually have to go in and delete 24 instances. Like there's no easy way to delete all those. Like they're not connected, right? So if you're deleting one, it doesn't delete them all. That's kind of the
Right.
challenge as well.
We would be making that possible. In fact, our team is currently working on it, where it would be very similar. Let's say if you reschedule or tweak or modify a single instance of appointment, it would ask you if you want to make that change only for that appointment or if you want to do it for all the future appointments. And with that, with a single click, you would be able to update all the future appointments as well. That
So
being
that would,
said, we are also bringing in a concept of infinite recurring, but that would only be possible from the in-app modal. So the way I think, it would work or it can work for you is, let's say somebody has booked to the max from the booking widget, and beyond that, perhaps, you can just repeat it from the in-app model, or you can just, update it and then, book the rest in the same model. The only reason why we have a limit of 24 occurrences on the widget is because the way our availability and logic works is we look in the future if, there are any conflicts. And if we do that to infinity, then our algorithm just keeps looking in the future to infinity, and you will never be able to find any slots. And that is the reason we have kept it to 24. But that is not the case in the in-app model, right? Because you know what your availabilities are, and then you can make a better call where you want this booking, right? So that is how we have split this problem statement, and we would be bringing those changes soon.
okay. And then one last thing on that, an end date, because if you put like 24 instances and they
You have that.
book 3 months in advance, now it's not 24 anymore. You would like it to end on a certain date
We would have that. We would have exactly how you see on Google, where you
Yeah.
would be able to decide if it should end after certain number of recurrences or it should end on a specific date, just exactly how you have in Google. So that would soon be out.
Okay. So like next quarter or this quarter, any
This quarter.
idea? This quarter?
This
Okay.
quarter.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, I think you have your hand
Yeah.
raised.
Yep. Just a different question, but just to echo what Cam says, that can it not be modeled through how Google Calendar works on recurring?
That's what we are doing on the in-app appointment model. there. So in the in-app, you would be able to have the same capabilities. But on the booking widget, the limitation of 24 still stays.
Okay. Right. My question though is, for the reschedule, how is it going to work? Is it only through the rescheduling link that are being sent out on the appointment, or can it be manually done by the user? How will it be treated as a rescheduled appointment?
Are you talking with respect to the recurring appointment? Are you talking
The rescheduled ones, the rescheduled appointment? So how will the system know that that particular appointment is rescheduled, other than clicking the reschedule link?
I mean, if there is a change, so reschedule is basically change in a schedule, right? So if there is a change in the start time and an end time, right, that is how we would be able to know if that appointment was rescheduled.
Okay, so that is also considered when the let's say the user is the one that's changing it on the contacts appointment profile.
Sure.
Okay.
Because again,
Okay.
the action is the same, right? It's rescheduling.
Okay.
Irrespective
Thank you.
of whoever does it.
Gotcha.
Awesome.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else we need to go over? See none. We can end 30 seconds early. Level up. If you haven't gotten your tickets for Summit, now is the time. Now is the time. So I did my pitch there. Thanks so much for this presentation, guys. Calendars is looking really awesome. I think we got some good feedback here, and really excited for everything we're going to be dropping here in the next coming weeks and the following quarter. Scheduling note, tomorrow's town hall is not happening in case you were planning on that. It's been updated on the calendars, but just wanted to make sure you guys didn't show up. Next one's going to be on Monday. So we will see you then. Have a wonderful weekend and go make some money.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Later.
Thank you.